Alright, now that we have our basic logo built, we want to make it 3D. A couple ways we can do that. We can come over here and highlight all the layers, right click, and we can convert them to a smart object so everything works on those, or we can merge the layers into one layer. But I actually prefer to just export it out as a separate JPEG and work with the 3D on a separate PSD. That way I can make any changes. Yeah, with the smart object you could always uncompress it and do that, but I just find it a little bit better when I'm working with 3D to use it as a separate JPEG. So I'm going to go File, Save As, and I'm going to call it Logo 1. Save that to the desktop. I'm going to make sure right here Photoshop's our PSD with all of our layers open. PNG is what we use when we're dropping into Premiere Pro or Final Cut Pro with the background extracted. I'm just going to go ahead and work with a straight JPEG for now. I'm going to hit Save, make sure I have maximum selected. The white's going to appear, but that's not going to be a problem. I'll show you how to get rid of that real quick. Now you notice we have a full-size JPEG. Looks pretty good as it is. It has some depth already, but let's go ahead and make it 3D. So I'm going to open that with Photoshop. And then I'm going to unlock or trash the lock so I can get rid of the background. Just come over here, use magnetic lasso real quick, delete all of our background. Command D deselects it, and now we're ready to do our 3D. So now we're ready to make it 3D. We're going to select our magic selector. Now that has all the blanks selected, so we're going to go select inverse, which now has the inside selected, our logo. Then we're going to go up to the 3D tab, and we're going to click Repose current selection, and that is going to run at different speeds. I'm going to warn you, you need to be patient with this. There's a lot of information being processed here by your computer, and on some of the computers it's going to move very slow. So once we have the Repose window open, we have our options here. The first thing I like to do is use the three-dimensional arrows to play with how I want to orient it. So you'll see each arrow, there's a blue arrow here, and then in the back we have the green arrow, which allows us to expand and contract and play with the depth of it a little bit. Right now I just really want to position it so that I can see there is that 3D depth to it. I actually want to get a little bit more side of the logo. Probably going to bring it over like that. Okay. Now in the Repose window there are tons of settings. Again, they work all different ways for changing the thickness, changing the bevel on the front, but I already have a bevel I like. So what I'm going to work with right now is I want to add a little texture to the sides. So right here I'm going to choose sides, and I'm going to look at a couple of different textures here. Look at the black texture, some of the white lines come out with that. Look at some of the marble texture. That looks pretty good. I kind of like this marbled texture here. I think it kind of helps with the depth. So I'm going to hit OK with that. And now I have my 3D image, my three-dimensional image, ready to put in the background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another layer. And then I'm going to go ahead and drag that layer underneath so that it will be the background. I'm going to click on File, Place, and choose the screenshot, our background, and that's going to drop in. I'm just going to make sure this is stretched out enough up here so that it covers that up. Place that, and now we have our image over our gradient background. The image is a little big for the text, so I'm going to go ahead and probably make sure I have the right layer selected. I'm going to go ahead and probably scale that a little bit down just a touch. So I'm going to edit, scale, and bring the size of it down just enough to where I'm probably going to need it a little bit smaller for text. Okay, and now to give it that nice hovering effect, we're going to make sure once again we have the object selected. We're going to click drop shadow, but we're going to do something a little different with our drop shadow. We're going to put it down underneath it to make it look like it's hovering off the ground. So let's take the distance and really crank the distance up a long ways. And when we do that, we're going to kind of take the opacity down. We're going to play with the spread and the size a little bit just to blur it out. Still want to make sure we have some of the openings there. Let's just drop the opacity down a little bit. So it looks like a little less spread. You go a little bit more on distance. The problem with distance, if you go too far, it's going to go straight off. And then let's play the angle a little bit. Gives it that sense that it's hovering. It gives it the look that it's hovering in the air a little bit more than it would. So it can be a nice subtle drop shadow like that. You can play with it to get it exactly how you like it. So now we have this sense of our image hovering over and we're ready for our text.